Hello everyone! Throughout my fleet analysis series, we have reviewed an array of different sci-fi factions from the Borg to the Romulans, but we haven't reviewed or analyzed one of the most popular factions in the Star Trek universe, which is the Federation. The Federation Defense Force and their exploration service is an organization called Starfleet. Its key principle is the advancement of the Federation knowledge of their galaxy in which they inhabit. Unlike other factions within Star Trek, the Federation has abundance of different classes of ships. In my other videos, we have analyzed the Klingons in the Romulan fleet, and it was easier to review a majority of their ships that were created throughout the different centuries since a big portion of them are still being used within their fleet, but the older versions are placed on patrol duty. This doesn't mean that the Federation doesn't retrofit some of their older vessels, but due to the amount of different classes that are being made for certain missions and duties, the Federation does have an abundance of different classes that are being aged out and no longer being used. To keep this video simple, we're only going to be looking at vessels used within the Federation fleet during the Dominion War, and of course we'll be giving some honorary mentions to some vessels as well. Majority of the configurations that were gathered for this video stems from the Star Trek Deep Space Nine technical manual, which contains a lot of information about the technology and ships used during the late 24th century. Usually in my fleet review videos, I usually analyze the training first, then their technology, their ships, and lastly review the full fleet overall. As mentioned before, Starfleet's main mission is to defend the Federation and explore their galaxy. Their members are made up of different aliens that are citizens of the Federation. Within Starfleet, they are split up between officers and enlisted. The officers have to complete 4 years of Starfleet Academy and are typically placed in roles of command, while enlisted crew members receive basic training and specialized training for their position. Starfleet makes sure that their officers and enlisted are well trained by using simulators that give them real life situations, while also constantly testing them as well. The Federation and Starfleet possess a higher end of technology within their quadrant. Compared to their enemies, they're usually at par or more advanced. They excel in sensor technology while their weapons are usually at par. Their weapons are mainly made up of phasers and photon torpedoes. For defense, they're protected by shields and hull armor. You might have noticed that I didn't mention cloaking technology, and that is due to the treaty that they signed which bans them using or developing cloaking devices, which explains why their sensors are more advanced compared to the other factions. During the Dominion War, Starfleet used an array of different classes and variants to help gain their victory. Starfleet had 8 major classes that were used at full capacity during the war, but due to the amount of ships that were lost and destroyed, the Federation started a program of rapid modifications for their starships. A lot of their ships' base configurations were modified to be used for more combat situations. Even ships that were already modified and reconfigured received additional makeover to be ready for the Dominion. There were multiple variants used during the war, but the main ships that were used were the Constitution, the Excelsior, and the Intrepid class. Even a few of these ships were combined together to make its own variant, or ship. The Constitution variant possessed an updated warp drive that could go up to warp 9.75 when needed, and it was retrofitted with 11 Type 10 phaser emitters and 4 photon torpedo launchers. With the newer warp drive engine, it was placed beneath the saucer. The Constitution design was a long-duration exploration vessel, and due to its old age, a lot of them were pulled off the front lines and used as training vessels. The other 2 vessels, such as the Excelsior and Intrepid class, were newer compared to the Constitution. The Excelsior class was first used during the 23rd century, and the Intrepid was put into service in the mid to late 24th century. During this time, the Federation took parts that they could use to construct and retrofit vessels for the conflict, which gave us interesting variants of different ships such as the Intrepid Constitution and the Excelsior Constitution class. These vessels were equipped with updated phaser emitters and photon torpedo launchers, including warp drives that could go up to 9.75. The original Excelsior class became the backbone of the Federation and is still being used in the early 20th century, making it one of the longest serving starships within Starfleet. The vessel is 511.25 meters long and has accommodation of 750 crew members with a limit of 9,800 for evacuation. The ship has an array of dual and single emitters, including torpedoes as well. The variant version was smaller and is only able to carry a crew of 315 or 175, even though it has updated emitters that only has 8 to 9, while the Excelsior class almost has double the amount of weapons. The Intrepid class was designed for long-term exploration missions, just like the Constitution class, but with a different design and updated equipment. The vessel possessed the mobility and firepower to make it a competitor in the Alpha and Beta Quadrant. Other variants were also built with lower-type weapons and overall contains half the armaments used within the original ship. The vessels were smaller and possessed less powerful warp drives. Due to the nature of their missions or their limitation of supplies, variants of vessels didn't always have the same kind of quality as the original vessel. Now, since we reviewed the 3 classes of ships that have an array of different variances, we'll be switching over to reviewing the 7 main ships that were used in their fleet during the Dominion War. One of the less powerful vessels on this list is a class of ship called the Miranda. The Miranda was in service during the 23rd to the 24th century as a medium cruiser. This vessel was originally a complementary class to the Constitution and shared a lot of construction components to the ship. Due to the age of the vessel, it only has a Type 7 phasers, but was lucky enough to be equipped with an upgraded warp drive that could go up to 9.2, while the older version could only go up to warp 7. The weapons that are equipped on the Miranda are similar to the other ships on the list, besides the pulse phase cannon, which is a type of phase modulated direct energy cannon. Another medium cruiser within the Federation fleet is a starship class called the Norway. This vessel entered into service in the late 24th century. It started development after the Battle of Wolf 359. Starfleet Command wanted to build a new type of ship that had better propulsion and weapons. The main idea was to build a smaller ship that was harder to hit. The Akira class was one of the vessels that started development after Wolf 359, but the ship was classified as a heavy cruiser. It has the same weapons as the Norway class, but it's 100 meters longer, and due to the extra length it is able to carry more than double the amount of crew members. The biggest improvement of both of these vessels is that the Akira class has a warp drive that can go up to warp 9.8, while the Norway class only can go up to 9.7. Not much of a difference in the short run, but if you look at it long term, there is a big difference. Another vessel that was mainly designed and developed for the Borg threat is the Saber class. The parts that were used on the ship was scavenged from different shipyards. Many Sabers were reused during the Dominion War and stayed into service in the 25th century. Even though the Saber was the same size as the Norway class, it has fewer weapons and crew members. The next vessel is one of the most iconic classes of ships within the Deep Space Nine series, which is the Defiant. Just like the other 3 vessels we just reviewed, the Defiant was developed due to the threat of the Borg. It was one of the first designs of warships in the Federation, and it possessed powerful forward attacking abilities. It's smaller than the other vessels on the list and has a accommodation crew of 40. This class of ships saw a lot of action during the Dominion War and played a key role in the Federation's victory. The ship's defenses were unique as well, possessing strong armor and being one of the first classes to have a cloaking device, which was a loan from the Romulans. The next vessel is the Nebula class. The Nebula was released from production towards the mid part of the 24th century. The vessel was designed to perform an array of different missions such as science, exploration, transportation, and patrol. Armed with the latest weapons, this class of vessel saw a lot of action against the Borg and during the Dominion War. It was stated that a few modifications were made to a few of these vessels to make them better in combat. Before we go with the last vessel on the list, let's give an honorary mention to the Alberth class. The Alberth was used as a scout and science vessel. The ship was in service during the late 23rd century to the 24th century, and didn't see a lot of action during the Dominion War due to its outdated weapons and size. Now let's review the final ship, which is the Galaxy class. This class of ship is one of the most iconic vessels on the list, besides the Constitution and Defiant. It entered into service in the mid-24th century and saw a lot of action during the Dominion War. Starfleet designed this vessel to be a heavy capital ship and classified it as an Explorer class. The Galaxy is the biggest vessel on this list as well, having a length of 642.51 meters. It's armed with 11 to 14 phaser arrays and 2 to 3 photon torpedoes, making this ship a powerful force in the battlefield. When we take an overall view of Starfleet classes of ships, it's apparent that Starfleet and the Federation have been working to improve their ships to face the incoming threat, called the Borg. For the longest time, Starfleet ships were mostly designed for exploration, but they learned over time that the only way they could survive is to design a newer class of vessel that possesses the maneuverability and firepower to match their enemies. My only issue is that Starfleet usually focuses on specialized vessels. In the future, it might be helpful to create a vessel that has a broad array of capabilities and is able to perform different missions. Let me know which class ship is your favorite, and which faction do you want me to review next. If you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe, and don't forget to click on the notification button to keep yourself updated with my channel. If you enjoyed this video, then you might appreciate these other 2 videos displayed on the screen. If you want more sci-fi content, then please check out my socials. Thank you for watching Utopian Broadcast, and I'll see you next time on my channel. Thank you.